Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real. Success is not given. Success is not easy. And it sure ain't for the weak. Success is forced. That's right, forced. If you want it, you have to force yourself to get up when you're tired. You have to force yourself to keep going when you feel like quitting. You have to force yourself to believe when nothing around you looks possible. Success requires self-discipline and personal accountability. Without these two elements, any dream remains just a wish, floating in the air with no direction or power behind it. Self-discipline is the engine that keeps you moving even when the excitement is gone. And accountability is the mirror that forces you to face your own reflection and say, this is on me. A lot of people want success, but very few are willing to pay the full price. They want the applause without the grind, the results without the effort, and the reward without the responsibility. That's not how this works. You have to be your own boss before you ever get to lead anyone else. You have to show up for yourself when nobody's watching, when there's no one clapping, when it's just you and the silence of your own decisions. Discipline is a decision, not a mood. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you've committed to. And commitment doesn't ask how tired you are or how inconvenient it is. Commitment shows up with or without a smile. You have to train yourself to do what needs to be done, whether it's comfortable or not. If you only move when you're motivated, you're not going to make it, because motivation fades is temporary. What lasts is consistency, and consistency is the fruit of discipline. You've got to create habits that align with your vision. You've got to structure your time, your energy, and your thoughts around the version of yourself you're trying to become. And that takes relentless self-control. Personal accountability means you stop blaming, you stop pointing fingers, you stop waiting for someone else to step up or circumstances to change. You take the wheel, you own the outcomes in your life, all of them. Whether you win or lose, you don't look outside, you look within. That's what grown folks do. That's what successful people do. They don't spend their time complaining about what went wrong. They ask what they could have done better. They learn, they adjust, they grow. Every setback becomes data. Every mistake becomes feedback. And every success becomes a stepping stone, not a destination. Now, here's the thing. Self-discipline and accountability are not sexy. They're not loud. They're not flashy. They don't get a lot of likes or views, but they work. While others are sleeping in, you're up grinding. While others are distracted, you're locked in. While others are waiting for permission, you've already taken action. You're building something. You're becoming someone. And most importantly, you're proving to yourself that you are capable of keeping your own word. That's what changes the game. Because once you trust you, there's no limit to what you can do. But it starts with those small choices every day. Waking up when you said you would, doing what you said you'd do, saying no to what's easy so you can say yes to what matters. Self-discipline teaches you how to delay gratification, how to wait for results without quitting, how to stick to the process when progress is slow. It's not fun. It's not always fair, but it's powerful. It's where real confidence comes from, not from faking it, not from pretending, but from knowing you've put in the work. Accountability forces you to stop hiding behind excuses and step fully into your role as the author of your story. No more playing the victim. No more hoping someone else fixes your life. You take the pen. You take control. You stop depending on luck or motivation or magic, and you start depending on discipline, direction, and hard work. That's how you build something that lasts. That's how you set yourself apart. And that's how you force yourself to succeed. Growth comes from discomfort, forces necessary for breakthrough. Nothing about real growth feels good in the beginning. It stretches you, challenges you, and makes you question whether you're even capable. But that's exactly where transformation happens, in the fire of discomfort, not in the comfort of routine. When life feels easy, you're usually coasting. You're not being pushed to your edge. You're not being required to rise. But when things get uncomfortable, when the pressure mounts, when you're in a place that forces you to make a choice, that's where your potential starts to wake up. That's where the next level of you begins to form. We all say we want to grow, but not everybody wants to be uncomfortable. People want change, but they don't want to be stretched. They want the fruit without planting the seeds, watering the soil, or fighting off the weeds. But growth demands discomfort. You can't become something greater by staying where it's safe. The truth is, every breakthrough in your life is going to come after a breaking point. It's going to come after you've been frustrated, after you've been tested, after you've been tempted to quit 1,000 times. That's why you have to force yourself into those places. Not because it feels good, but because it's necessary. Because if you don't, you'll settle. You'll stay in the job you hate. You'll keep entertaining people who don't respect you. You'll keep waking up knowing you're capable of more, but too afraid to chase it. So you've got to be intentional about discomfort. You've got to seek it out. You've got to wake up every day and challenge your own limits. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. If it scares you, good. If it's hard, good. If it makes you uncomfortable, good. That's the signal. That's where the growth lives. People think strength shows up when you're already winning, but real strength is built in the unseen hours. In the gym when no one's watching, at the desk when everyone else is out partying, in the silence where it's just you, your doubts, and your decision to keep going. Every time you push through that discomfort, you're rewiring yourself. You're building new patterns. You're turning weakness into power. You don't get stronger by doing what's easy. You get stronger by forcing yourself to do what most people avoid. That's the gap between average and excellence. That's the difference between the person who wants to change and the person who forces themselves to change. Your mind will resist it. Your body will protest. Your emotions will try to convince you to take the easy road. But you have to be louder than all of that. You have to remind yourself why you started. You have to get crystal clear on your vision, because when the pressure comes, that vision is what will keep you standing. It's what will make you take the next step when your legs are shaking. It's what will make you sacrifice now so you can succeed later. The pain of growth is temporary. The pride of breakthrough is forever. So lean into that tension. Run toward the challenge. Embrace the uncomfortable. Because in that space, in the resistance, in the doubt, in the stretch, that's where your breakthrough is waiting. That's where the real you is being built. Not the version that's been playing small, but the version that's bold, disciplined, focused, and unafraid to take the heat. That version only comes alive when you force yourself to face what you fear and keep moving forward anyway. Waiting for motivation is a trap. Take action regardless of feelings. The biggest lie people believe about success is that they need to feel ready before they start. That somehow one day they'll wake up inspired, full of energy, and the perfect mindset will magically show up to carry them to their goals. But that's not how it works. Motivation is unreliable. It's inconsistent. It comes and goes like the wind. You cannot build a strong life on something that weak. You cannot trust your future to something that disappears the moment things get tough. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll never get anywhere. You'll stay stuck, frustrated, and wondering why your dreams are still out of reach. The truth is, action has to come first. You have to move whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is stronger than motivation because discipline shows up no matter how you feel. Every person who has achieved something great had days when they didn't want to get out of bed, days when doubt was louder than belief, days when the vision felt too far away. But what separates the achievers from the talkers is that the achievers moved anyway. They showed up for the workout. They sat down to write. They made the call. They practiced the speech. They did the work even when they were tired, frustrated, uninspired, or scared. That's the key. You act first, and the motivation shows up after. People think it's the other way around, but it's not. When you take a small step, even if you don't feel like it, you start to create momentum. And momentum is what builds confidence. You start to prove to yourself that you're the kind of person who follows through. That's when the energy comes. That's when the focus sharpens. That's when the fire grows. But if you sit around waiting for that fire to light itself, you'll waste years. You'll let opportunities pass. You'll keep saying tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. You'll watch other people take action and think they're just more motivated, more gifted, or more lucky than you. But it's not about luck. It's about deciding. Deciding to act in spite of the way you feel. That's where your power is. Because feelings change, but decisions can be firm. You have to train yourself to move without a pep talk, to grind without applause, to hustle without hype. That's what maturity looks like. That's what leadership looks like. That's what winning looks like. When you take control of your actions, you take control of your life. You stop being a slave to mood swings. You stop letting a bad day derail a good plan. You stop giving your power away to something as unstable as motivation, and instead you start to build your life with intention. You become someone who doesn't need the stars to align. Someone who doesn't need a perfect playlist or an inspiring quote to get moving. Someone who gets it done simply because it needs to be done. That mindset changes everything because now you're not just reacting to life, you're creating it. You're shaping it with every disciplined decision, every step taken in the face of resistance. Every time you refuse to be ruled by your feelings, you don't wait to feel inspired to act. You act to feel inspired. That's the shift. That's the standard. You take the first step, even if it's small, even if it's messy, even if you're afraid. And with every step, you get stronger. You build grit. You build focus. You build discipline. And one day you'll look back and realize it wasn't motivation that got you here. It was your decision to act, to push, to show up again and again, no matter what. You must demand more from yourself than others ever will. The truth is, no one is going to hold you to a higher standard than you hold yourself. No coach, no teacher, no mentor, no boss, not even your family. People may push you, people may encourage you, but at the end of the day, it is you who must decide how far you're willing to go. The level of excellence you reach in your life will always match the expectations you set for yourself. If you only aim to do what's required, you'll never rise above average. If you only move when someone else is watching, you'll never become unstoppable. The greatest power you'll ever tap into is the ability to demand more from yourself in private than anyone ever expects in public. It starts with how you talk to yourself. Do you let yourself off the hook when things get hard? Do you make excuses when you fall short? Do you say that's good enough when deep down you know you could have gone harder, longer, smarter? High performers don't settle. They don't negotiate with their standards. They raise them. They make their own rules. They push their own limits, even when nobody is watching, especially when nobody is watching. Because that's where greatness is built, in the quiet, in the dark, in the discipline no one sees. When you learn to challenge yourself, to stretch your own boundaries, you start unlocking levels of performance you didn't even know were in you. People who excel in life aren't waiting to be told what to do. They don't need constant validation. They'll wait for someone to push them. They push themselves. They review their own work. They critique their own decisions. They study their habits and sharpen their routines. They are brutally honest with themselves because they know comfort breeds mediocrity. They understand that the moment they start coasting is the moment they start declining. So they never stop demanding more focus, more growth, more excellence. Not for the spotlight, not for the credit, but because it's who they are. This mindset is what separates leaders from followers, winners from wishers. It's the reason some people achieve what looks impossible. They're not always more talented, but they are more relentless. They don't wait for someone to raise the bar. They raise it themselves. And when they hit that level, they raise it again because their goal isn't just to be better than others. Their goal is to be better than who they were yesterday, every single day. That's the race they're running, the internal one. The one that requires complete honesty, constant effort, and zero tolerance for excuses. You don't get strong by doing the minimum. You get strong by going beyond, by setting standards that feel a little too high, by holding yourself accountable even when it hurts. That kind of inner fire, that personal drive, becomes a force no one can stop, and over time, it creates a life of mastery, discipline, and fulfillment. You don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to be great. You just have to decide that you're going to be the hardest worker in the room, the most focused, the most consistent, not for applause, not for attention, but because you owe it to yourself to see what you're truly capable of when you stop settling. Demanding more from yourself means rejecting the easy way. It means telling yourself the truth even when it's uncomfortable. It means sacrificing comfort for growth, laziness for discipline, distraction for purpose. When you demand more from yourself, you start showing up differently. You start speaking differently. You walk into rooms with a sense of presence because you know what you've built in silence. You've done the work. You've paid the price. You didn't wait for someone else to push you. You became your own fire. And that kind of power, that kind of self-respect can never be taken away from you. Life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're willing to work for. Everybody wants something. A better life, a bigger paycheck, more peace, deeper purpose, greater success. But want alone has never changed anything. You can want it with your whole heart. You can wish on every star. You can dream about it every single night. But if you're not willing to put in the work, none of it matters. The world doesn't reward desire. It rewards discipline. It doesn't hand out success just because you think you deserve it. It responds to effort, to consistency, to sweat, sacrifice, and showing up when it's hard. That's the gap between people who succeed and people who only fantasize about success. One group does the work. The other talks about doing it someday. You can sit and make vision boards, repeat affirmations, and write goals in journals. And those are good tools. But tools without action are useless because life will test you. It will challenge you. It will throw obstacles in your path and ask, how bad do you really want it? And the only way you prove it is through action. The kind of action that's not always fun. The kind of action that doesn't come with applause. The kind of action that means sacrificing sleep, changing habits, cutting off distractions and doing things other people avoid. That's the price of anything worthwhile. And you don't get to skip it. You can't cheat the grind. You can't fake the work. Eventually, your results will expose whether you've earned what you asked for or not. So many people sit around waiting for opportunity. But opportunity doesn't show up for the passive. It shows up for the prepared. It shows up for the person who's been quietly putting in the work behind the scenes, even when nothing seemed to be happening. That's the person who gets noticed. That's the person who rises when the door finally opens. Because they didn't just want it, and the truth is, most people aren't willing to go that far. They want the rewards, but they don't want the pressure. They want the outcome, but they don't want the process. They want to win, but they don't want to suffer. And that's exactly why life gives more to the few who are willing to do what the many won't. When you look at someone who's built something great, whether it's a business, a body, a career, or a mindset, understand that it wasn't handed to them. They didn't stumble into success. They worked for it. They showed up early. They stayed late. They failed and tried again. They trained their minds, built their discipline, and pushed through the days when quitting looked easier. That's the reality of growth. It's not always inspiring. It's not always glamorous, but it works. You grind in the dark so you can shine in the light. You make the deposits long before you ever see a return. And if you keep doing that day after day, life will eventually give you what you've earned. No one is entitled to success, not based on age, background, education, or talent. The only real currency that life responds to is effort. And the beauty of that is, you don't have to be the smartest or the most talented. You just have to be the most committed. You just have to be the one who refuses to stop, the one who keeps improving, the one who keeps showing up. Because when you do, something starts to shift. Doors start opening. Opportunities start finding you. But only after you've done the work. Wanting it isn't enough. Wanting it doesn't separate you. What separates you is the fire in your gut that says, I'm going to earn this. I'm going to work for this. I'm not waiting for it. I'm coming to take it. And once you start living like that, life can't help but respond. Forcing yourself to succeed means making success non-negotiable. It means removing the option to quit, to slack off, or to give anything less than your best. Most people leave too much room for excuses, too much space for compromise, too many backup plans that allow them to walk away when things get uncomfortable. But when you make success non-negotiable, you eliminate all of that. You decide that no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you fall, you will not stop until you reach what you set out to accomplish. That level of commitment turns your goals into obligations, not suggestions, not wishes, but absolute priorities. It changes your attitude from I'll try to I must. And that mindset shift is what separates people who succeed from people who stay stuck in the cycle of almost. There's a moment in everyone's life when they have to decide whether they're going to live by emotion or by purpose. Whether they're going to let circumstances dictate their pace or whether they're going to lead their life with conviction. When you force yourself to succeed, you make the decision to show up regardless of how you feel. You don't negotiate with tiredness, with fear, with failure, with doubt. You don't let outside noise or internal weakness stop your forward motion because you've already made the decision that success is going to happen, and you've removed every other option off the table. You've told yourself that losing is not a conclusion. It's just data, a lesson, a step in the process. So even when things go wrong, you don't stop. You reset, refocus, and keep pushing forward because your destination has already been decided. Making success non-negotiable also means taking ownership over every area of your life. You don't wait for someone else to hold you accountable. You do that for yourself. You don't wait for the stars to align or for someone to give you a chance. You create the opportunity with preparation, action, and relentless pursuit. You don't blame people. You don't blame time. You don't blame luck. You take responsibility. You control what you can control, and you stop wasting energy on what you can't. That's what warriors do. That's what leaders do. They own their path, and they protect their focus like their life depends on it, because in many ways, it does. So people who make success non-negotiable are the ones who find a way no matter what. They don't care how long it takes, how many times they have to try, or how many people tell them no. They don't entertain distractions. They don't engage in drama. They don't let failure become final. They might stumble, they might hurt, they might doubt, but they never back down because they've already made the choice. They've already drawn the line. They've already decided that their future matters more than their feelings, that their mission is bigger than their mood, that their purpose outweighs their pain. They treat their goal like a non-negotiable responsibility, not a casual dream. This kind of intensity doesn't come from hype or motivation. It comes from internal alignment. It comes from deciding what kind of life you want to live, what kind of legacy you want to leave, and who you're willing to become to get there. And once that decision is made, everything else becomes secondary. You eat, sleep, and move with that mission in your bones. You train your mind to stay locked in. Even when everything around you says stop, you push when it's inconvenient. You grind when it's painful. You sacrifice when it's uncomfortable. Because you understand that the cost of success is paid in full by those who refuse to settle, who refuse to compromise, and who refuse to accept anything less than excellence. When you force yourself to succeed, you build a life based on conviction, not convenience. You show up like it's life or death. You stop dipping your toes in and start diving all the way in. You burn the backup plan. You make the promise. You keep the promise. You remove the exit sign and move like nothing will stop you from crossing that finish line.